My name's Richard Jackson. I started GateSafe back in 2010. I'm the chairman and chief executive of it. The reason we started GateSafe was after two tragic accidents back in 2010 where kiddies were killed in automatic gates. I resolved at that point in time that was something that I wanted to try and do something about and ensure that it certainly didn't happen on my watch. In schools you've got an awful lot of people that are potentially vulnerable. Children aren't fully aware of what's what, and you've got a duty of care as a school to look after them. They're entrusted to the school to look after, and it's essential the gates are safe. GateSafe does a number of things. Firstly, there's GateSafe Register, where we've got over 1,000 people that we've trained through the GateSafe awareness training, so they should be fully aware of the risks associated with automatic gates. That's first and foremost, and a list of those can be found on the GateSafe website. That's gate-safe.org. Secondly, we offer help and advice to schools in terms of audits. We can either come to schools to look at the gates and do a safety health check, or we can alternatively offer a desk-based survey. Not quite as good, but again, if there are major errors, that will be able to be flagged up to the powers that be. And then finally, we've got the GateSafe MOT. That's something that we recently introduced, which is attached to the gates when they've been serviced. There's a clear indication of when the gates were serviced, by whom, and when they're next due. There are many risks around a gate. You've got the gaps in between the gates as they close, more importantly the gaps in between the gate and the post if it's a swing gate, such as the one behind me. There have been numerous instances where people have been hurt and even killed. So on the swing gates, the gap between the gate and the gate post is typically the area where there's biggest risk. But because of the way this is hinged on the centre line here, this gap when the gate opens and closes is more or less constant, so there's no risk of any crash or shear hazards. So that's a really good feature we've got on this gate. Here we've got photocells, sometimes referred to as magic eyes. They send a beam across the gateway, and if we have them on the inside and outside, hopefully they will prevent the gate coming into contact. And what happens if that eye is broken or the beam is broken as the gate's closing, the gate will again open and stay open for a predetermined time. Here we've got pressure edges. These will, if they impact with someone, they will activate the gate in the closing phase, so it stops and moves away from the person or object that is activated. As the gate's closing, those come close together, and again if someone were between the gates they would also activate. And then again we've got further edges down here. They're on the inside and outside, and as the gate's opening and closing, if they come into contact again, the gate will stop and move away from the object. And it's important that it does move away, otherwise there's a possibility of someone being trapped in a dangerous position. Gates should be maintained on a regular basis, and that would typically be 6 months. On a very high usage that could even be as little as 4 or 3. And that should be carried out by a competent installer. That would be someone that could be found on the GateSafe website. That's gate-safe.org. In addition to that, the school should also take care of the routine maintenance, checking out for any signs of wear and tear, have the gates dropped, do they scrape on the road, that sort of thing. And part of their handover will give details to the school of what they should be taking a weather eye on as it goes on. In terms of the liability, that would be the school. They're effectively the owners of the equipment or the machine, which is what an automatic gate is. And in the event that there was an instance, it would be the school's liability, possibly being passed up to the council if it's a council-run school. There have been instances relatively recently where bigger fines were handed out, and that was just for a manual gate, not even an automatic one, that caused an injury. Any gate that's going to be installed would have a risk assessment. That would cover the actual gate itself in terms of the design of the gate, the usage of the gate. Is it pedestrians, is it vehicle? Are pedestrians going to be able to get close to the gate, if it's a vehicle gate, and the type of people using it. If the school finds a problem with the gate, if they don't feel they can deal with the problem themselves, which is the most likely, they should immediately call a gate safe contractor to come out and look at the gate. If there's any thought there could be any imminent danger of the gate falling or failing, they should put it into manual operation, and they should be trained to do that at the handover of the gate. When a school goes to appoint a contractor, really they need to be sure they're competent and have had adequate training, and that would be something like the gate safe training. That can be found on the Gate Safe website, list of installers on the A to Z section, also by postcode to show the nearest geographic people to the location. When a school is looking to install a gate, it needs to consider what is essential in terms of the operation of the gate, and that has got to feature first and foremost the safety. All gates should have two different forms of safety on them. Typically that would be pressure resistant post cells, and ideally segregated access in between pedestrians and vehicles. The requirement for the safety would really be all assessed by the risk assessment that's carried out by a competent contractor, and that should ensure a safe and reliable installation for the school.